In this review of the week's news, police crack down on boy racers, students compete for cooking success, and the Central City Blueprint has a birthday. This is CTV News Week in Review. I'm Grant Mangan. Air New Zealand's brand new plane flew into Christchurch this week.
A game changer in air travel in New Zealand. Welcome to the 7879 Dreamliner. This new plane boasts 302 seats and new technology throughout the aircraft, making the flying experience more enjoyable. Air New Zealand's head of aircraft programs, Kerry Reeves, says the team have worked hard to improve the comfort of the passenger plane.
The look and feel, the openness in the windows, I think that's just a whole new flying experience.
There are many different features on this plane, such as the overhead lockers, the new types of seats and the tinted windows.
A favourite feature for the aircraft team are the tinted windows.
The bigger windows, as you can see, you get a much greater view outside. It gives you a very panoramic view when you're flying, a real sense of floating in the air. And the pressurisation of the aircraft is at a much lower cabin altitude. So you really feel like you're not flying.
Traditionally, passenger windows come with shades to keep out light and allow people to sleep. The new and improved technology allows the customer to choose from 5 different shades for their window, from clear to pitch black.
And that's the position that you would have it while you're sleeping, even if it's daylight outside. The crew can set all of the windows in the cabin the same way, or each passenger, as you can see, can set the window themselves to suit their own requirements.
The modern plane retails at $250 million a year. Kerry Reeves believes this game-changing aircraft is cheaper to operate. He hopes this will also mean cheaper tickets for passengers. Another feature that has the crew talking are the new bathrooms on board.
Lavatories don't need to be boring, so the wallpaper that we have in the lavatories is a little bit exciting, just gives people a sense of something different.
The new plane comes with a divider between 2 bathrooms, making it easier for disabled passengers to do their business with privacy.
There's a movable wall in between 2 lavatories, which then opens up. And as you can see, lovely wallpaper there. That's a little exciting with some of the book titles on there. And as you open that up, then we can manoeuvre a wheelchair in here with a disabled person and then give them complete privacy.
This is the first of the Dreamliners. Air New Zealand plan to have another 2 up in the sky flying by the end of the year. The plane will begin flying from Auckland to Sydney in September and then daily commercially fly to Perth in the middle of October. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
A Christchurch business has become big in the global knitting market.
Lights, camera, action. This is a sexy knitwear shoot. What started as a chat over chai lattes soon became a successful international business. Christchurch knit company Stitch Seekers created Mena Knitwear, a modern knitwear pattern released every month, modelled by a sexy local man. It's been a hit overseas. Most of the client base comes from the United Kingdom and the United States.
Everybody loves it. We've got a big fan base. Every month they're all online saying when's the next band coming out, because we do them as a surprise every month. So yeah, it's great seeing the funny comments and the feedback that we get.
Wanting to see their Kiwi-based business continue to grow, their dream for the small-town company is to become big in the knitwear industry.
Mena Knitwear is huge in the Northern Hemisphere. Our biggest client base is in the States and Europe, and it's just growing all the time. So I guess, of course we want to be a household name.
The models for the sexy knitwear are found on the streets of Christchurch. Knitwear designer Deborah Moore met Mr. May on her doorstep.
I had this knock at the door one day and went to answer the door, and it was an incredibly hot young French guy who was collecting for charity, so I had to proposition him, of course.
The hobby of knitting is changing and coming back bigger than ever. Rhiannon and Deborah agree. This is just the beginning of the knitting comeback.
As a craft, obviously people associate it with old ladies and grannies making pink jumpers, but it's actually enjoying a massive resurgence on the internet.
Hoping to inspire young fashion minds into contemporary knitting, wanting the rising generation to think, not what can I buy, but make instead. As the Mena Knitwear continue to appeal, the online presence continues to grow the customer base. Kate Heppel, the editor of a leading UK knitting magazine, recently tweeted, "The thing she looks forward to most at the beginning of each month is the Men in Knitwear calendar pattern."
Social media definitely propel it, things like Facebook. We've gone from having a few hundred shares on Facebook to a few thousand and that kind of thing.
Looking for models in Christchurch's vast selection of sexy men is no easy feat. Rhiannon and Deborah now bravely hand out business cards to potential stars they see in the street.
First of all, it was massively embarrassing, and some guys look at you with absolute suspicion, but I've got used to it now and I'm just brazen.
The card simply says, "This is not a pickup line, but we think you'd make a great model for our calendar." CTV's Marcus Gibbs, it's your turn to step up. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
A police operation to crack down on boy racers in Christchurch over last weekend proved successful.
34 police officers on the search for disorderly behaviour and excessive speeds. Basically, your typical boy racers.
Over the weekend we had a number of checkpoints set up earlier in the evenings, and then also we had staff working at boy racer gatherings, apprehending them for any offences that we detected.
The Canterbury Road Policing team worked over the weekend on boy racers running riot, breaching alcohol bans and speeding well over the limit.
A couple of things of concern that happened over the weekend were some of the speeds that some of them were apprehended at. Travelling down the southern motorway, there was a couple of cars that were stopped doing in excess of 140 k's, and then one vehicle was also caught on radar doing over 160, but it was unsafe to stop that vehicle. So yeah, that's pretty disappointing really at that time of night.
Before the Canterbury earthquakes hit, boy racers plagued the streets of Christchurch, causing problems for the City Council. Numbers dropped off straight after the earthquakes, but now they're building up once more.
Well, the numbers are getting back up there again. Obviously the conditions of the road at the moment is slowing them down in some areas.
The boy racers aren't only based in Christchurch. Police know of gatherings in Kaiapoi and Rolleston during the weekend's big event.
We also apprehended a number of drivers that were from sort of South Canterbury area, so they are travelling quite large distances to get here.
During the blitz, 7 cars were impounded. 3 of those were for burnouts. Another 156 drivers were issued with various infringements. 36 people were apprehended for breaching the liquor ban. These young people weren't behind the wheel, but passengers drinking can distract the driver and cause a crash. Another 36 drivers were ticketed for breaching their driver licence conditions. 2 drivers were over the alcohol breath limit, and another 2 people were arrested for causing willful damage to property. The weekend's operation was a special event, and police are hoping when they're not out in force, motorists will dob on boy racers breaking the rules.
Even if they can just record what they're doing by means of writing down registration numbers, or if they've got a cell phone and they can record it by video, and we'll certainly follow that up.
Based on the high amount of arrests over the weekend, this won't be the last time police crack down on boy racers. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Locals are backing Canterbury Special Olympians heading to Los Angeles.
Cycling their way to the Special Olympic World Summer Games. Dozens taking to stationary bikes in Christchurch's own Tour de Montreal.
How long have you been on the bike for now?
I've been on since 12 o'clock this afternoon.
And how are you feeling?
I feel good. Really, really good.
I've got a very sore bottom. Yeah, other than that, I'm not too bad.
Helping raise funds for these athletes to reach their dreams. Members of the community and Special Olympics team are cycling around the clock for 24 hours.
Oh, it's excellent to see it, and it's really good to get what Special Olympics is all about, and people enjoy the culture of Special Olympics, I think.
Craig Bennett's heading overseas with the basketball team, hoping to add to his already impressive medal haul. He's been playing the sport for 10 years.
Yeah, and this one, that's the first one I got in the National Games, 2013 one. We came first in the games, that one. And this one's best East Skills, so I'm going third.
Craig is one of 3 athletes from Special Olympics Canterbury, travelling to Los Angeles in 12 months. But it's at a cost, $10,000 to $15,000 each, which is why they're seeking the backing of the local community.
Oh, as the other boys have said, good cause. It's pretty hard out there to raise money for people these days, so big business like Ideal Electrical need to get behind these sorts of things, support the community.
I wasn't able to escape without taking to a bike myself.
We're right at the start up there for stage 1 of the Tour de France. So you've only got 64 minutes to go and then you finish the stage.
I hadn't shown up in Lycra, so wasn't expecting to last long.
Okay, so I'm supposed to be going 16k and it's going to take me 64 minutes, but I'm gathering I'm going to go about half of that. I've been on here for about 2 minutes and I'm puffing already.
These athletes spent hours on the bikes at a time, but my fitness didn't compare to theirs.
I'm actually puffing already.
The athletes have 12 months of training before heading off to the Summer Games next July. Emma Cropper, CTV News.
Coming up, top student chefs battle it out. A Christchurch City Councillor is proposing an annual clean-up day when residents can freely dump any unwanted household items.
It's moving day for Megan Eotua. Her family are moving out of their rental of more than 2 decades, and it's a great opportunity for Megan to pass on any unwanted items to the Salvation Army.
It's amazing what you can accumulate in 21 years.
She's one of many who have been donating to the Sallies as they move out of their earthquake-damaged homes. Things like old crockery, a printer, a stereo, and even a mirror.
We didn't have time to sell it or anything, and I'm glad I can bless others.
The Salvation Army on sells what's donated at its family store, a place filled with bargains. The profits go back into the local community and help to fund the men's shelter. However, not everything that's dropped off at their warehouse is in good condition.
A rusty heater, we wouldn't even be bothered testing it. You know, not only that, but people can't afford those sort of heating anymore, so we need to think about that as well. Our clientele's often, you know, poor. We're all poor, but pillows like this, nobody could sleep on those. It comes under...
I wouldn't want to buy those.
No, exactly, you wouldn't. Some people have the attitude that we give them away for free, but you wouldn't give that away for free. You know, it's still got to be the same quality as if we could sell it.
The cost of dumping unwanted items that can't be unsold has jumped from about $70,000 last year to more than $111,000 in the last financial year. Other charities have also noticed hikes in the cost of dumping as more people leave their homes and clear out their cupboards. Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell is proposing the council allows charities like the Salvation Army to have their dumping fees waived. That would be great news for the Salvation Army. The Addington Centre alone has paid $25,000 in the past year to dump items that aren't up to scratch.
All the money we make here in the Addington area, the profit, goes directly to the Addington community, to the men's supportive accommodation. So it means they literally have up to $25,000 more a year just from us.
The City Council's Environment Committee discussed the issue today, deciding the council staff should provide further information before councillors decide whether the cash-strapped City Council should push ahead with the proposal.
So that, for example, rather than householders also being faced with this problem of increased dumping fees for them, that we look at, you know, what kind of, say, citywide collection could we have for furnishings and furniture and stuff really that isn't wanted any longer and isn't really recyclable or reusable.
Councillor Clearwater says all options should be on the table. He'd even like to look at a community dumping day. For the Salvation Army, the increase in dumping costs has come as a surprise.
It started with the earthquakes, obviously, people wanting to leave town initially, and then as the repairs go on, people having to get out of their houses, and it hasn't stopped. It's been consistently.
The Addington Family Stores tries to recycle everything it can. The wood in the shed is chopped up and any burnable wood is sold as firewood. However, this massive bin is filled with dirty and broken items that can't be sold, and it has to be emptied every week.
Yeah. How much rubbish are you dropping off a year? How many tonnes of rubbish?
I couldn't tell you. I don't even know that I want to know. It'd be huge.
The Salvation Army is hoping the council will agree to cover the cost of dumping unwanted items. The Environment Committee will meet to discuss the issue next month. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Some of the region's top student chefs battled for a place in the National Secondary Schools Culinary Challenge.
The competition is heating up. 50 schools around the country competing for a chance to take out the top prize of a national cooking competition. Hillmorton, Burnside and Mackenzie College are each vying for Canterbury's regional title. The top school will then head to Auckland for the Nationals in September.
It's all about a realism of trying to become a chef in the future.
This competition is all about keeping calm under pressure, and the teams have a simple game plan.
Keep everything tidy, work fast, finish on time.
But it's not just being able to serve and taste and muck around all day long. It's all about trying to get it up so the customer's happy.
They've spent more than a month preparing for the competition, which will provide them with great experience of what it's like to work in one of the country's top restaurants.
So you might not be the absolute best, but you might be really great and then have to work as a team and put in the hours of practice and all those great things.
The students have an hour and a half to prepare a main and an entree. They must include 5 different vegetables, including a leek and a potato. The main has to be a chicken breast dish.
We're doing a leek and kumara phyllo.
Since the leek is the main ingredient, we're going to actually cold feed a leek and use the oil for everything, for what I'm cooking, for meat as well, and for the chicken.
Fast forward an hour, and the pressure of the competition is taking its toll on these young chefs. The teams are flat out, the clock is ticking.
How are you coping under the pressure at the moment?
Good, yeah. Just have to speed up a little.
As the dishes start to form, one team is clearly ahead of the rest. These workspaces look as though a flour bomb has gone off, whereas these two are working in a very clean and tidy space. The Burnside chefs seem quite relaxed, while it's obvious the other two teams are feeling the heat. Burnside School is the first to deliver the entrees, and with seconds on the clock they race to get their mains onto the judges' table.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that's time!
Delivering their culinary creation seconds after the deadline, they've lost points, but the other two teams are losing more by the minute. Their dishes are still not on the table. After seeing the skills of the Burnside students in action in the kitchen and after tasting their food, it didn't take the judges long to find a winning team.
What do you think?
Very nice. Yeah, nicely cooked. Good seasoning. Nice and tender, got a lot of flavour.
Their dish certainly had that kind of restaurant kind of flair about it. Some really great techniques from braising. They did a trio so you could see different techniques that they were showing in their dish.
The Burnside team is wrapped with their success. They're putting their natural cooking ability down to good genetics.
My dad does cooking, so I think I got that from him. Yeah, same. Yeah.
They'll now battle it out in the Auckland finals in September. No matter the result, these girls are keen to follow their dream to become one of the country's top chefs. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Still to come, it's happy birthday to the Central City Blueprint. It's 2 years since the Central City Blueprint was unveiled to Cantabrians at the Christchurch City Council. Marcus Gibbs looks back at what was promised to see whether the dream has become a reality.
July 30th, 2012 at 7 p.m. A crowd has gathered to witness the unveiling of the Christchurch Central Recovery Plan for the earthquake-damaged Central City.
Tonight you're going to see a plan which shows a big green belt around the city, 12 precincts where people will be able to enjoy everything from sports to culture, right through to a living environment, a business environment, and a vision for what will undoubtedly be the most livable city in New Zealand.
Big promises and big dreams. Produced in just 100 days, this world-class blueprint was delivered live on national television in front of an audience of thousands.
So the answer, we believe, is a very bold and innovative urban design led approach to these problems. We want to lift confidence in Christchurch, both from a community point of view, but also from an investor point of view and a developer point of view.
The business community was applauding the announcement.
And we have been hanging out for this. This provides an iconic future for the city. It provides certainty, it provides hope, and I am really, really excited about it.
Despite the release of the plan, residents were still reeling from news their homes were red-zoned, and despite the CBD being the focus of the plan, it was still locked off to residents for another 11 months. As the blueprint was announced, Reverend Mike Coleman criticised the Earthquake Recovery Minister for the lack of progress elsewhere in the city.
Who will
announce a convention centre. He'll announce millions and millions of dollars put in to the CBD where no one lives at all. He'll announce a plan for the CBD when there is no plan at all for the suburbs.
The man who led the design of the blueprint, Don Miskell, was ecstatic with the public reaction to the idea of the green frame surrounding the inner city core.
When we've been working on the frame, and other people who've looked over our shoulders have said, I want to live there, that'll be fantastic.
2 years on, and how far has the city centre come? New revelations show the Christchurch City Council has an insurance shortfall of more than $500 million. It's led to another round of discussions over the possibility of asset sales, or whether the City Council can even afford its share of the $40 billion rebuild. 2 years prior, Councillor Jani Johansson was making the same predictions.
People should be really worried about how much these projects are going to cost, how they're going to be funded, to invest in things like stadiums, convention centres, metro sports facilities that lose an incredible amount of money through selling off the assets that make money seems completely contrary to good sense.
Financial fears aside, new buildings are starting to pop up. The retail precinct is slowly forming, and work on Anthony Goff's $100 million development has restarted this week. Next door, Nick Hunt is pushing ahead with his site, and major developer Tim Glasson has announced plans for the Triangle. The Christchurch Central Development Unit has had to compulsorily acquire land to make room for the blueprint projects. Work has already started on the Justice and Emergency Services Precinct and the bus exchange, while the Avon River Precinct is due to be completed next year. Meanwhile, other projects will be underway by the end of the year. Roading changes will see Manchester Street widen to fit 4 lanes of traffic. West End House will need to be demolished in the process. You'll remember this as the first new building in the CBD following the earthquakes. Labour's earthquake spokeswoman Ruth Dyson has told the press the blueprint hasn't delivered value for money and has been causing damage to the city instead. She says some decisions haven't been meeting the community's needs, citing the demolition of the Majestic Theatre and the Centennial Pool. However, Christchurch is only 2 years into what has been described as a 10-year rebuild. Projects like the major stadium may be pushed back for at least another 5 years. Time will tell whether the blueprint will be hailed a success. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
To mark the 2-year anniversary of the Central City Blueprint, CTV News asked ratepayers what they thought of the progress that's been made.
I guess they're working as fast as they can. I'm married to a builder and yeah, they're pretty stretched all the time and pretty busy, so I guess it's going okay, but I'm not really worried.
Oh, it's a little bit slow.
It's taken a long time.
It's slow, but it's a long journey.
I don't go into the city very often.
I think we're getting there. It's taking a fair time to do it.
I think there's a lot of things that people don't actually see, but when you go back into the middle of the city, yeah, my husband's involved with it, and they're making huge progress on the buildings. He's doing commercial buildings, so huge progress, just not things that people can see maybe, you know.
It appears to be very slow.
It is slow, but I think they're trying to get it right, so I'm quite happy with the way it's going.
I'm disappointed with it. I would have hoped by now there'd be more evidence of it. I mean, a lot of the things are planned, but nothing seems to have eventuated. I say nothing, some has, but it's, I'm pretty disappointed with it, really, yes.
And what Cantabrians think could be done differently with the rebuild.
Yeah, probably the inner city advance a wee bit quicker.
I suppose they've got to take the time to get it right, because they only get one chance, don't they? So I'm happy if they take the time.
No, just getting the public amenities going as quick as they can, really, I suppose.
I don't know, I'm going into a flash new government building in a couple of years, so I'm excited about that.
I like them to speed it up a bit. I mean, this cathedral thing, is a bugbear. Everybody's got different opinions on that. And there's just not enough happening, that's all.
I think probably the paperwork with the council giving out all their, all the permissions that they need, everything like that, yeah, more than anything.
Looking back in retrospect, we had no idea of what to do, how to do it, because nothing had ever happened like that before. In this sort of situation, I think probably we've learnt a lot. If it happened again, we'd know a lot more things than we do now. So it's progressing. It's going to take a long time to come back to some degree of normality, but we're getting there.
Joelle Batista, CTV News.
That's CTV News Week in Review. I'm Grant Mangan. Have a great weekend.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.